These days it seems to be all about power. Always, the conversations are always about horsepower and acceleration and speed. Do you know what? This is like the complete other end of the spectrum. I feel right now like I'm a kid again, and I've got this Tonka toy to drive around in. Speed is irrelevant. Handling's not terribly relevant. It's about how this thing makes you feel. So this is the Suzuki Jimny 2022 commercial, and Twisted have taken it into the shop and given it some Twisted thinking, applied some suitable Twisted styling and products to it to make it just a really, really funky, cool, fun, engaging vehicle. Jimny is one of the very few vehicles on the road right now that you can buy new that actually still has the kind of rounded underpinnings that the original vehicle had. So the LJ80 came out in the 70s. It was a Suzuki 3-door commercial or station wagon, 4 seats or 2. A little, I think they were an 800cc petrol in them. 2-wheel drive with selectable 4. The absolute basic of 4-wheel drive back then. And right now, 2022, 40 years later, we're in a car with 2-wheel drive with selectable 4. It's got a low box, just like the old LJ had. It's got a tiny little petrol engine in it. It's got no performance whatsoever, but it just echoes back to that car. And it's so much like Defender for that reason. Defender, it's, you know, the technology under the Defender is the same as the 90 and the 110 that came out in the very early 80s. And not that far removed from the series vehicles with the leaf springs. The change was the early 80s. We got constant 4-wheel drive and we got coil springs. But in reality, it's still a solid beam axle with a simple suspension system. And this is just like that. When I was 8, I learned to drive. Actually, the first car I ever drove was a Suzuki Super Carry. It was, I think, a 1982 on an X. I was, 8 or something. And I remember my dad saying, look, I'm going to park that on the drive, lad, and when I've had my tea, I want you to be driving that thing. Well, I got in it and I'd changed gear for him before, and I'd done a couple of pedals, and I knew how the steering worked, but when you're trying to put all these things together, it was a bit of a challenge. Anyway, he'd finished his tea and he took me out, and I learned to drive this thing, and that was it. I was driving every day, every opportunity, up the fields, down the drive, washing cars, any excuse to get behind the wheel. So that was Suzuki Super Carry. When I was about, 12, I guess, I actually managed to save a few £100, and I bought a Suzuki SJ410. It was brown, cream wheels, little 3-door, 1-litre petrol carburettor, STY343Y from memory, and we painted it up and tidied it up, and I drove it around the field. This 2022 Jimny feels like a very close relative of that vehicle. Why have Twisted done a Suzuki? It's not very British, but what is so Twisted about it is the whole analog experience. This is a car that you've got to cajole along. We've altered the suspension, we've honed the suspension, we've changed the tyre, we've got a different offset on the rim, we've added a few accessories adventure-wise, we've given it a bit of soundproofing, we're working on more power, we've upgraded the audio, given it a better tech system. But in reality, the underpinnings are still a real simple 4-wheel drive. And that, to me, is what Twisted's about. The driving experience has to be analog. We're not digitizing the driving experience. We're keeping it simple. We're keeping it basic. Just refined enough to be, for us to be able to put up with it and live with it, but actually get this real buzz out of driving it. You know, I'm doing 65 miles an hour right now. I've been through every gear and I've used many of the revs. and we only got to 65. But I tell you what, the next corner I come to, the next bump in the road, I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm gonna have to position myself. I'm gonna convince this vehicle to go where I want it to go. That's what this is all about. This is just a fun adventure vehicle that is gonna be really well placed in the city, really well placed off-road on a weekend, throw the dogs in, tow the little boat around, chuck it on the beach, load the roof up with a roof tent, and off you go. What a fabulous little vehicle. It's not trying to be something it's not shouty, and in fact it's almost the opposite of shouty. It's this little meek four-wheel drive that packs an incredible punch from an engagement perspective. It's just so cool. Everything about it's really light. It's really easy, and I guess with that it's quite forgiving. But a bit like Defender, you put a bad gear change in, you know about it. You pick a bad line on a corner and catch a pothole, you know about it. I think it makes you a better driver because you're thinking about way more than just a direction of travel. You're looking at the humps and bumps in the road. You're looking at where there might be a grate because you don't want to put a tyre across it. You're looking at braking points. It's really making you be involved as a driver rather than just sat there. The 2022 Suzuki Jimny bi-twisted. This is something completely new. We've not done it before. I think the guys have absolutely smashed it. What a brilliant, brilliant vehicle. I always said my perfect garage was a 911, a Defender, a RS6 and a Range Rover, but you know what? I need another garage. There's going to have to be one of these in there as well. This is just fabulous. What a thing. Wicked. I'm just like, you can tell by my face, I love it. Absolutely love it.